So hello, Facebook, testing, 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 check, check, check. Here we are. It is the 29th of May of 2020. And for those who are seeing this, you might be seeing this now, you might be seeing this later. We're here on Facebook, really happy to be here on Facebook. We are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic that the world is starting to open up and things like that. But today, and for this purpose, we're going to be talking about how to win against allegations of immigration fraud, all right? It's interesting, right? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic right now nationally, and yet our office has been receiving call after call after call and case after case after case of people even during this time being accused of and being alleged, facing allegations and charges of immigration fraud. All right. So this is a serious issue, and the Trump administration seems to be going after this issue more and more and more. And my name is Otis Landerholm, and I'm really happy to be with you right here today. And thanks for joining me here on Facebook, all right, or on YouTube or wherever you're watching this. I really appreciate your taking the time. I want to spend the next 30 minutes, and I want to explain how to handle and how to win against allegations of immigration fraud. All right. So if you're interested in that, you're in the right place. Watch this video. All right. So here we are. My agenda today is first, I'm going to do a little introduction. I'm going to do a dance with my little video here, with my little shot there. All right. I'm going to talk about what is immigration fraud. And we're going to immigration fraud, we're talking about misrepresentations. We're talking about false claims to U.S. citizenship, and we're talking about marriage fraud, all right? And so we're going to be talking about those legal issues. And really, if you've got allegations against you about immigration fraud of any one of those types, then the third thing we're going to discuss today is, okay, great, what to do about it, all right? But before, and in the conclusion, I'll give a great offer for you, so I want you to stay tuned for that as well, all right? So introduction, and then what is immigration fraud, and then what to do about it, and then a conclusion with an offer. All right, great. So for my introduction, I want to introduce myself a little bit, and then I want to introduce my office. All right. So I am a lawyer. Otis is my name, Otis Landerholm. I'm also a family man. My wife Wendy. We have two kids, Koa and River. They're 9 years old and 7 years old. They're awesome, great kids. You got Otis the bicyclist. I love riding my bicycle. I love staying active. In fact, in the year 2005, I rode my bicycle across the United States. And right now I'm training for a half Ironman, which is a triathlon event, biking, running, and swimming. And so I am training for that. And Otis the traveler. I love traveling. I love meeting people from other places and getting to know other cultures and connecting with other parts of this amazing world. And it's a big part of why I do what I do. Which brings me, right on that topic, it brings me to my why. Like, people ask me, why would a white guy, why would a gringo, why would a guy like me be an immigration lawyer? And, well, what a question, right? And my answer is that I believe in the freedom of movement. I loved my years of travel, all right? I traveled in 25 different countries. I've lived in 5 different countries. I loved that. It made such a huge difference in my own feelings of self-confidence, in my own understanding of how the world works. And I really believe that people who immigrate are some of the greatest contributions to our society and to societies and to human progress that we can possibly have. And so I strongly believe in the freedom of movement, that people should have the right to travel, to explore new places, to go and live and work and explore and learn from other cultures and other ways of doing things and other ways of thinking about things. Because if we encouraged travel, and if we encouraged getting to know your neighbors and getting to know, other ways of doing things, we would encourage the world becoming a better place. All right, there you go. And so I always like to ask the question, like, why is it that I could travel to each of these countries? And why is it that I could live in the countries that are bold and underlined on this list? And I was never once deported. I was never once caught crossing a border. I was never once detained. I never once had a visa denied. I didn't ever have to hire some law firm to fight my case in court so that I could go into one of these places, all right? It was actually pretty simple for me to go to these places. Whereas this picture shows the wall that exists between the United States and Mexico, and the crosses that are on this picture represent actual human beings who have died trying to enter the United States. And it's like, why is that? Why is it so simple for some people like me to go anywhere on planet Earth? And why is it so difficult for so many other people to do the exact same thing? There's this huge inequality that exists between some people who have the freedom to go anywhere and other people who are stuck, right? And it's like, why is that? And for me, that was okay, let's go to law school and let's figure it out. Let's answer that question. Why is there this crazy difference, right? And then once you go to law school and once you learn the reason is that we have a legal system that it's actually we who have created the laws that create that difference, all right? We have elected members of Congress who have passed laws that value certain people with certain types of documents and that exclude or reject or deport certain other people with certain other types of documents. And that is the way our legal system was created. All right? And it wasn't always that way. In fact, when the U.S. started, heck, we were pretty much wide open for anybody. We were wide open for business, for the world, for immigration, right? And so with time, we've created laws, and these laws, in my opinion, do not reflect the initial intention of our country, which is crazy. Anyway, so now that we know that, and I'm in law school and I'm learning this stuff, right? I'm like, okay, what do we do about it? And the answer is we start a law firm. And so I started a law firm, all right? And here we are. And we're lawyers, and we're paralegals, and we're legal assistants, and we fight for the rights of immigrants who are facing deportation, and we fight for the rights of immigrants who are hoping to stay in the United States because we believe in it, all right? And we very, very much believe in our clients, and it's a huge honor of mine to have created a company that represents people so that really they're free to live the lives that they want to live wherever that might be. All right? That's it. That's all I'm going to say about me. So, and that's my firm, all right? And so that's all I'm going to say about me. Now I want to talk about immigration fraud. This is a serious issue. It's a serious topic. These cases are scary for people who are facing the allegations. I'll move my face back over to this side so that you can see our nice logo over there. So here we are. We're talking about immigration fraud. All right. So, all right. Imagine that Marta applied for a visa in Mexico to enter the United States. And imagine that on her visa application, she lied and said that she was single when in reality she was married. And her visa got denied. All right? Later, she borrowed a cousin's green card and used it to enter the United States. Then, once she was here, she divorced her husband, remarried a U.S. citizen so that she could get papers. All right? And the question is, where is the fraud? Where is the quote-unquote immigration fraud? That's what we're going to be talking about today. All right? And the quick and dirty answer is the fraud is everywhere in this scenario. All right? She made a misrepresentation on her visa. She used a document that didn't belong to her, and she entered into a marriage for the purpose of immigration papers only, and that is that she committed fraud in all three of those ways. All right. Cool. So immigration fraud, I want to get rid of that. Okay. Immigration fraud includes three things. It actually could include a few more, but these are the big three, all right? The big three for immigration fraud that I really want to make clear today, and they are by far the most common types of immigration fraud, all right, are three different things, and we want to talk about them. The first is what we call a willful misrepresentation of a material fact, all right? It's an inadmissibility ground. It also creates a deportability ground, but it is a lie. All right, it is someone who says something that is not true for the purpose of gaining admission or for the purpose of winning some immigration benefit. All right. Immigration fraud is a willful misrepresentation of a material fact that includes the use of fake, false, or another's documents. All right? The second type of fraud that I want to discuss today are what we call false claims to U.S. citizenship. All right? It is a lie saying that you are a U.S. citizen, all right? Not necessarily to enter the United States, but actually for any purpose. We're going to talk about that today. And the third type of fraud that we've got to cover is marriage fraud, all right, which we'll get into. All right, so stay tuned. Before we get into that too much, all right, if you want free information and if you want to contact our office and get access to this very presentation, all right, please send us a text. Pull out your phone and send the text of the word fraud, F-R-A-U-D, fraud, all right, to this phone number, 510-726-8653, all right? Again, text the word fraud to 510-726-8653, all right? And we'll ask you for your name and for your email address, and then we'll send you all this stuff, all right? You can also do the exact same thing by sending the word fraud, all right, on a direct message to our office on Facebook, all right? I know that we're doing this on Facebook Live, so please do that. All right, very cool. Very good. So now we'll talk about material misrepresentations, all right? So willful misrepresentations of material facts. All right, so according to Immigration Nationality Act, Section 212A6CI, all right, a person becomes, quote unquote, inadmissible if they commit a willful misrepresentation of a material fact. All right, so to find inadmissibility, there must be three things. All right, first, there has to be, quote unquote, willfulness. All right, it has to be intentional. You have to say something that is false, and you got to mean it. You got to mean to deceive. All right, and so where does this come up? Look, if you were, I don't know, 6 years old when you used a fake green card to cross in, you may or may not have known what you were doing, all right? Maybe your intention was just, my mom told me what to do, all right? And you didn't understand that you were like committing some fraud necessarily. You were just doing what you thought you were supposed to do. So if you are like So if you're in that situation, you might argue, hey, this wasn't even a willful or a intentional misrepresentation. You thought you were doing what you were supposed to do. All right. Likewise, if it was, for example, coerced, if you were supposed to, like if you were almost like forced or threatened, right, to come in, you could have arguments. All right. We can get creative to say, look, this was not a willful act on your part. You were being forced to do this type of misrepresentation. All right? So that's one. It's got to be willful. The second requirement for this type of misrepresentation is that there has to actually be something that is a lie, right? Something that is false. Okay? It's got to be a quote-unquote misrepresentation. That's what it's all about. If what you said, maybe you thought at the time that it was false, but it ended up being true. All right. If that were the case, then it wouldn't have technically have been a misrepresentation at all. And you might have a way to say, look, you shouldn't be inadmissible. All right. Based on something that was actually accurate. And then the third thing that they've got to find is quote unquote materiality. And that is that it's got to be of a material fact. And by that, they're talking about it's got to be relevant to your immigration process. All right? If you're in an interview and somebody says, hey, on what day were you born? And you say, hey, I was born on Thursday, when you knew in your mind I was really born on Tuesday. I mean, that doesn't matter. It's not material. It doesn't make any difference. It should not make you inadmissible. All right? So it shouldn't cause a problem. In other words, you can lie all you want in a visa interview as long as it's not material to your case. And I don't recommend doing that, by the way. Don't mess around with that. I'm just saying you shouldn't be held inadmissible unless it's about a material fact, something that's material to your immigration application. Cool. I hope that that's all clear. If you have questions about it, contact our office. That's what we're here for. All right. So the second type of fraud that I want to discuss today are what we call false claims to U.S. citizenship. I want to be in this shot. I'm going to move it down there. Maybe that's better. Okay. False claims to U.S. citizenship. All right. So in 1996, Congress expanded the law. They expanded the law and they added new inadmissibility grounds for people making quote unquote false claims of U.S. citizenship for any purpose under immigration, federal, or local laws. All right? And so what does that mean? False claims to citizenship are nasty. All right? Because it doesn't have to be material to the immigration case. It can be for any purpose. All right? And so, for example, if you lie and say that you're a U.S. citizen to get a job, you will be inadmissible. All right? If you lie and say you're a U.S. citizen for any other purpose, maybe you registered to vote, or maybe you were applying for a driver's license and said that you were a U.S. citizen. Anything like that, you're going to be inadmissible, and it creates a serious problem because false claims to U.S. citizenship are much harder to waive than material misrepresentations or willful misrepresentations of material fact that we saw last time. All right. To be found inadmissible under this section, false claims to U.S. citizenship, which is 212A6, 212A6C double I, all right, to be found inadmissible, there must be, one, willfulness, just like last time. It has to be intentional. Two, there has to be a false claim of citizenship, all right? You have to say, yes, I was a U.S. citizen. You can't say I was a U.S. permanent resident, right? That's not a false claim to citizenship. You can't say I was, I don't know, a U.S. national born in American Samoa or something like that, right? That people who are born in certain U.S. protectorates are not citizens, but they are U.S. nationals. They belong to the U.S. Anyway, technicality. And that misrepresentation must have been made after September 30th of 1996. All right. If it was made before September 30th, 1996, it might still be a willful misrepresentation of a material fact, but it will not be a false claim to U.S. citizenship. Okay. So that's the way false claims work. The third is, before we get into it, sorry. Both of those issues can be timely retracted. So I want to talk about the doctrine of timely retraction really quick, all right? False claims to U.S. citizenship and willful misrepresentations of material fact can be undone if a person makes a quote-unquote timely retraction. That's really great, all right? So according to USCIS, Citizenship and Immigration Service, in order that the retraction, you take it back. Sorry, officer, I take it back. In order for that to be quote-unquote timely, the retraction must be made in the same proceeding as the misrepresentation or the false statement. You can't retract it later and have it be considered timely. You can't go home and think about it and think, oh man, what have I done? And then write a letter to them and say, please take it back, all right? According to USCIS, that doesn't work, all right? Things like that can be fought about in court, by the way, but the best thing is it's best to know about this beforehand, and if there were a misrepresentation, hey, let's see what we can do to make a timely retraction of it. And if you're with a good lawyer and that type of misrepresentation comes up in an interview, that lawyer will say, hey, time out, we need to have a conversation, all right? And let's go outside of the interview, have a conversation, and then go back in and make that retraction, all right? So there's that. Then, okay, now I want to get into marriage fraud, all right? If you get married as a way to get around or quote-unquote evade U.S. immigration laws, that is illegal, all right? They call it marriage fraud, and it does carry serious penalties. Really, the core question for marriage fraud is all about your intent at the time of your marriage, all right? So the question that immigration is trying to figure out, that the immigration officers on your case are trying to figure out, is did you intend to form a life together, all right? Or were you just intending to evade and get around U.S. immigration laws, all right? If you were intending to form a life together, it's not immigration fraud, all right? And listen to what that is and listen to what that isn't, all right? It's important to understand people get married all the time, all right? And they may or may not have the intention of like starting a family together that looks like the perfect family and have a house together and, you know, have a white picket fence and a pretty garden and things like that. Like, you don't have to be super cookie cutter, all right? You can have an abnormal relationship, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's quote-unquote immigration fraud, all right? In fact, our office has won cases where there's like large age disparities, right? Or where there's very unique relationships where, you know, hey, maybe you married for some other purpose. Like maybe your primary goal in the marriage is to be able to file taxes together, right? Or maybe your primary purpose is to like take care of each other in old age, but it's not really about love necessarily. It's more about like just having somebody to take care of, all right? Or something to that effect, all right? Some form of companionship, all right? We've seen all kinds of different relationships, and some of them are very, very legitimate, even if they don't seem like the normal relationship, whatever that means, in the eyes of the immigration service, all right? And so if you've got a relationship like that, like don't like be afraid of that, all right? Be like, celebrate your cool, interesting relationship, and let's explain it to immigration so that they know that it's a legit relationship and not just for immigration purposes. The real issue is, what was your intention at the time of the marriage, and was it solely for immigration purposes, or was there some other intention involved? All right, and so that's it. All right, cool. All right, so now we've talked about those three big types of fraud. all right? And so now if you're facing those, one of those three types, any of them, now the question becomes, okay, what are we going to do about it, all right? And so let's talk about that. Before we really get into that, all right, it's important to say where fraud comes up in the conversation, all right? And the best time for fraud to come up is at your consultation, which I've got up here, with a immigration lawyer, all right? And the reason that's the best time is because now we can strategize calmly what the best process is to navigate around the fraud, all right? Or to prepare us for it, so that, hey, maybe we can avoid any allegation of fraud ever happening, all right? So the best time to raise any concern about this is at your initial consultation before you even apply for any immigration benefit, all right? That's perfect world. Talk to your lawyer, be 100% honest with your lawyer, with your law firm, with your legal team, and let's get to the bottom of these issues right from the beginning, all right? Sometimes, however, unfortunately, we get the call and a client comes in to meet with us after they've already had a government interview, all right? Or after some other part of the process where now there's an allegation out there, all right? And now there's some officer who's suspecting certain things. And so sometimes this comes up at a government interview. Sometimes it comes up after a quote-unquote RFE, or a request for more evidence, all right? Sometimes it comes up after what they call a NOID, or a notice of intent to deny. Sometimes it comes up after a denial, and you read the denial and you can see allegations in it of fraud. And then lastly, sometimes it comes up during deportation proceedings, all right? And people are now being thrown in to deportation proceedings. You might see it there on your notice to appear in immigration court. So it's important to know where it comes up whenever possible. Let's bring it up right from the beginning of a case, even before applying for anything, so that we can really strategize around it. All right, cool. I also want to talk about when to concede allegations of fraud, all right? So conceding means like accepting, means like, yo, sorry, yeah, I did do that, all right? And this is also discussed at the consultation, all right? And during like a legal strategy meeting when we're talking about, hey, what are we going to do about it, all right? Sometimes it's helpful to concede, and sometimes we got to fight about that fraud allegation. So my best advice is do not concede. Don't admit to having committed fraud just because immigration is saying you did, all right? Sometimes you want to push back, all right? You want to say, no, whatever I said isn't immigration fraud, all right? And let's fight about that, all right? So what I say is typically the best advice is do not concede to fraud unless you have a clear strategy. Don't just give in and say, yeah, sorry, I lied about that, you know? Forget about that. Like, hold your ground, really think it through, strategize whether or not there might be some better argument, all right, that can maximize your chances of staying in the U.S. If you're facing these types of allegations, don't concede fraud, don't admit to those allegations on your own. Get an immigration lawyer first, and let's strategize it. Let's see if we concede or if we fight about it. All right? Very good. And then really it's like what to do, you know. Really it's like, okay, what are my options? You know, you've got allegations of fraud. What are my options to beat a fraud allegation? There are basically three options. All right? Option number one, you fight those charges. Don't concede the fraud. Don't admit to it. Let's fight about it. Let's stick it to them. Let's say, hey, look, whatever I said, I meant what I said. I wasn't lying, or it wasn't a material fact, or it wasn't willful. Let's argue about it. Sometimes that's successful, sometimes it's not, but you've got the right to fight about it. You've got the right to say it. And so sometimes it really helps you, all right? The second option is to file a waiver. Some types of fraud is waivable. Some types of fraud is not waivable, all right? For example, a 212I waiver, which is right here on my slide, can waive willful misrepresentations of material fact under 212A6CI, all right? If you've got a U.S. citizen spouse or a green card holding spouse or a U.S. citizen parent or a green card holding parent who would suffer quote unquote extreme hardship if that waiver is denied. If you've got that, all right, then you can ask for forgiveness for a fraud that happened. You can ask for a waiver, right? A waiver is a way to ask the government, like, look, sorry that I committed fraud. Please forgive me, all right? And I know that it was wrong, and I'm sorry that I did it, and here's why I did it. And look, my family depends on me, and, you know, they would suffer without me, and I get that it was wrong, but please forgive me. All right? That's what a waiver is. Similarly, a 237A1H waiver can waive fraud grounds of deportability, all right, if your initial admission was obtained by fraud, and if you have family in the U.S., all right, that would suffer without you, and if you're not deportable for any other reason. So if really your only problem, there's no criminal records involved, right? If your only problem is that initial fraud, then there's a waiver available, and you can fight about that in immigration court. Okay? So option one, you fight the charges and you win there. Option number two is you file for a waiver of the fraud. And option three is you file a different type of case. You file a case that can overcome the fraud. All right? And so those cases include cancellation of removal. Those cases could include asylum. If you're eligible for asylum, they can include U visas. U visas can waive all of these types of immigration fraud. They don't do it automatically. It's not easy to get that done, but they have the capability and the power to do that if you're eligible for a U visa. Hint, see another one of our monthly seminars, all right, on each of these topics. We've talked about them, and we're happy to share that information with you too. And lastly, I put VAWA, all right? VAWA also has the capability for people who've been the victims of domestic violence. You might be eligible to waive one or more of these types of fraud. All right, very cool. So that's really it that I wanted to say for our seminar here today. So my offer today is one, to give you to get you a legal consultation, which is normally $125, all right, to get you a copy of my book, all right, The Immigrant's Guide. So it's called There Is Hope, The Immigrant's Guide to Winning in Immigration Court, all right, and a copy of today's presentation, all right, plus a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you're not happy with the consult that you have with my team for any reason, then please let us know. We'll refund you all of the money. And all of those things for a super monthly seminar discount of only $25. All right? So if you're interested in getting all of this stuff, and if you've watched this video, thank you for watching this video. All right? And if you're watching this video, I can tell that you're serious. All right? And I want to thank you for that. And so we're giving you this special offer. All right? So please take advantage of it. It's the least expensive, full-on legal consultation that with my team that you're going to find. All right? And so I'm happy to offer it, and please take advantage of it. All right? In order to take advantage of it, please do text our office, text the word fraud, as I mentioned earlier, to 510-726-8653. Again, text the word fraud to 510-726-8653, or send the word fraud on a direct message here in Facebook, all right? And we'll get you going, and my team will be in touch with you, all right? That's really all that I wanted to say today. I hope that you found this helpful, all right? If you are facing immigration fraud, do not panic, all right? Don't panic. Let's think it through. Let's strategize it. Let's meet. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out the best thing to do, and then let's go for it, all right? Don't just give up and say, oh, man, everything is lost. There are options. You are not alone in this issue. This is an incredibly stressful issue when it happens, but you're not alone, all right? And you can overcome it, and it is still winnable, even if you've got these kinds of allegations. All right. Thank you so much for watching this. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. Thank you and good luck.